Hi, in this video we are going to discuss about the electronic reporting. First of all, let me show what are the topics we are going to discuss in this session. First of all, we need to define what's the electronic reporting, what are the main components in the electronic reporting, and design the sample or a sample report using the electronic reporting. Within the report design, we should know what are the data types we must use, or what are the data types we have to use while designing the reports, how to filter the data in the report itself, how to group the data in the report itself. Then design the Excel template in which we can use to export the data, how the data will be shaped in the Excel sheet. Finally, we will export the data which we designed from the report which we have configured in the system. This is the Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. In the workspaces, we should have something called electronic reporting here. It's here, and we can add that to the favorite as well. This is the electronic reporting main screen. We have here many configurations and many options we can use. The first option or the main option which we are working on is the repository. So by default we have the Microsoft repository, and we created our own repository in which we can add more reports and customize the reports, as well as inheriting the reports from Microsoft directly. So within this repository we have the report configuration. So I should here see all of the reports and reports configured in this repository. But before moving forward to discuss about the components of this screen or this repository, let's go back to our slide. So this is the report which we are going to design. It's a sample report. It's a customer statement report, a sample report, just to know how we can use this electronic report to design such kind of reports. So before moving forward to discuss about the design itself, let's define what's electronic reporting. Electronic reporting is a powerful tool that we can use to build up reports, as well as export some data from Dynamics to external or third party. Like for example, exporting our tax statement to the tax authority, for example, or export the customer invoices, vendor invoices to the external vendor or customers outside of Dynamics. So I can use the electronic reporting to build the reports, design the reports, and build the reports, as well as exporting the data and send this data to the third party using the internet protocols within a particular shape like XML or Excel format, whatever the format I'm using. So here we are aiming to design this particular report. So I will have like customer statement report in the top, and in the middle I will have the customer code, customer name. Below that we will have the start date and end date of this particular report, or in another word, what is the exact period I already selected to show the data in this report. And in the below I will have the table which has all of the transactions belongs to the particular customer which I have selected in this particular report. Let's go back to Dynamics. So what I have to do here, from where I have to start, actually I'm in the repository itself. So I have to create, first of all I have to create the configuration. So while creating the configuration, I will have several options here. Which option I have to use? Let's identify each option of these options. So the first thing, which is the root. Root means the main root of my report, which I'm going to design. By default, the report will have the exact shape of the data, or in another word, the data model, how the data will be in the report itself. Inside the root itself, I will have the mapping between my data model and the dynamics tables, from where system will fetch this data exactly in the system itself. I mean, from where the report will fetch the data exactly from the dynamics itself. So another option, which is formatting the data, I can export this data into Excel, PDF, Word, whatever formats I have here. I have several formats. So these are the options I have here, plus one option related to drive, but drive the design from the existing design, which means I can inherit the predefined design. For example, Microsoft design and Microsoft reports, which already pre-built by Microsoft. So I cannot change these reports directly. So I have to have a new inheritance from that report, or from that components, or from that root, or from that model, or whatever I'm inheriting from. So since I'm starting from scratch, so I will select root. So in the root, in the name, I will give a name here to that root. I will name it customer statement report underscore demo. I will copy the same to the description and create the configuration. So I will have one component added here to my report repository. So before moving forward with this component, let me go back to the slide and check something related to designing the report itself. So here I'm trying to design the report structure. So in the first slide, in the previous slide, I know that what is the shape of my report. Here I need to design the customer statement report with this particular, I mean with this shape. So the next slide is showing how the report will be built. So the first thing I need to create the data model. So some spelling mistake here. It's data model. After the data model, I have to link this data model with the or map this data model with. Let me correct all at once. Okay. So after creating the data model, I have to map the data model with the data from the dynamics itself. So after that, I have to create the export format linked with the mapping I already did. How to do that? Here I created this root. So I'm assuming this root will be my data model. I will create the fields which I'm aiming to see in the report within this data model. So I have to do that. I have to go to designer. Here I will create model root. So we agree that I'm creating the model. So the first thing in the model will be the root. So I will say this is customer statement. Let's say root. I created one node here. Under this node, I will create a child from the selected node. Child means the node will be created under this node which I created recently. So the main thing which is the base of the report. So under that I will add, let's say, the blocks or components which are in my reports. So I will start as I see here in my design. This is my design. This is the report. The first block which is the customer data. So I will create one block here called customer data or information. Something here called item types or item type. What's the item type? Item means the item I'm creating right now. Here I'm creating one block. This item might be block, might be record list, might be field in the report itself, might be list of fields. So here I'm creating block. So inside this block, let me assume this is a record list. Inside this block, I will create the exact records will be fetched or will be appear in the customer information. Why I selected record list? Because I'm assuming the report page, one page will be for one customer. So one block for one customer. So if the report showing another block means it's for the next customer. So I will be having a list of customers, and each customer block will be presented in the separate page in the report. So I will select this record list. So I'm assuming here this is customer information. Inside the customer information, I should see the customer code and customer name. So I will create a new child of an active node, which is I will create a customer code. In this case, I will select the data type of this particular component. What I'm doing actually I'm creating this block. Let's say this block, for example. Okay. I'm creating this block which is related to the customer information, and I'm trying to create these fields. So first field, which is customer code, and the data type of the customer code will be string only. So I will select string here. I just type the customer code and I selected the item type is a string. So what are the data types we have here and we can use? For example, a string for the data related to the text. I have here real, which is the data which are the which is the related to the data presenting or showing the amounts or money. I have here integer, which is related to the number without decimals. I have here long number. I have GUID. I have Boolean, which is true or false. I have here one type which is void, which means it's not presenting data. It's something used for the calculation maybe. I have also date time enum. Date time is clear, and enum means the selected or particular values are predefined in the dynamics itself. For example, a gender, male or female, this kind of enum. For example, the order type or order, for example, status like open order or invoice, this kind of enum as well. So here record, so I'm talking about the particular record list. I'm talking about list of records as we explained in the customer case. So container, which is similar to record list, but it's showing different components, let's say encapsulated, or let's say it's added in particular block which is called container. Also, we have something called date time, which is presenting date and time in the same field. So in our case here is the customer code will be a string. So I will click on add. Now this is the report route. This is the customer info section, which is record list. Inside the record list, I have customer code as a string. I will add a new subnode from the customer info called customer name string as well. Again, I will add one more block, which is report parameter. It will be record. Let's say in this case will be record, because the parameter I'm aiming to show you to show this information, like from which date to which date, what are the parameters selected in the report. I will present it here, so it's not related to the statement itself. It's not related to the repeated data, so it's not required to be a record list. Inside this one, I will create. If you notice that the root have it has two different components in the same level. In the customer info, we have some sub components under the customer info itself. So the customer info and report parameter will be in the same level. No need to have a nested levels here of the between the customer info and the report parameter, because it's not related to the customer info. So I will create a new item, which is date from, and I will select the data type of this item will be date. Add one more, date to date, again date. So I have date from date to. Then in the customer info, I will create a record list, a sub record list from the customers, which is customer transactions. It will be a kind of record list. It's under the customer info. Under this one, I will create a child node, which is let's say trans date. Here it's date and amount. It's real. Then let's say description, which is string. So what I did exactly, I created the node, the root. Then under the root, I create the customer info. Under the customer info directly, I created the customer code and customer name. And again, and the customer info, under the customer info, I created the customer transactions. Under the customer transactions, I created three fields, which are amount, description, and transaction date. Then again, I created something called report parameters, or report param. Under that one, I created the date from and date to be used as a data as a report parameter while presenting the data in the report itself. So up to this level, what I have created here, I created the data model in this report, the data model I have created here. So what I have to do after that, before answering this question, let's go back to the slide and check what are the sequence I'm following here. So first of all, I created the data model. This I have done. Then after that, I have to map these fields which I created in the data model to our data entities in Dynamics itself. In another word, I'm just pointing to which tables or which data entities from Dynamics system has to fetch the data and fill this data to this data model which I have created just now. So let's go back here. After completing this design, what I have to do is I have to change the status of this particular item or node to be completed, which means I already initiated a completed version of this particular node. So I will click on OK. System will create a new version of my component or of my status of that component. We have draft and completed with name or with the description of initial version. Then again, I can change this data model. I can change this data model many times, then create different versions of data model. I can use any one of them. So I can have different data models. I can have different reports reading from each data model separately. That's why we are segregating the options like this. Why we are not creating the data model with mapping with the export directly in one node, because we can have the let's say nested reports, or several reports are reading from one data model, or the opposite means different data models are showing or presenting in different reports. So what I have to do next, I have to create a new configuration. Then as I mentioned before, that we can drive the a new data model from the existing data model. So if I did that, system will copy what I have done previously and allow me to edit to the new one. So I will not harm the original one which I have created. So if I did any changes, the changes will be belongs to the new driven data model created, and it will not affect the original data model. This is the, let's say, the right approach in which we can use to avoid the let's say harming, or let's say conflicting the data model, or conflicting the components which we are using in the electronic reporting. It's a kind of logic, or in inheritance logic, or kind of inheritance mechanism in the building the reports. Okay, so what I have to do now, I will create format lastly, but before moving to the format, I will create the mapping based on the data model which I have created, customer statement report demo. So what I have to do is I have to name it, let's say customer, let's say data mapping. I will copy the name and put in the description. Here system is asking me what is the version which you are going to use, in which will be mapped with the data entity in Dynamics itself. So I will select here the version which I already completed in the previous step. Then create the configuration. So I have created this one with the data structure of the report or data model of the report. Then I'm creating this one to map the data structure or the fields in the report with the data entities with Dynamics itself. Again, I will click on designer. Here the shape is little bit different. So I'm going to click on designer. Again, another shape comes here to my screen, different than the shape which we have seen in the previous section or previous node, which is the data model. Here is the mapping with the data model. By the way, the data model which we created, it's already appear here in the right side. So I need to say this customer code will bring the data from something in Dynamics itself. That's I'm trying to do right now. So what I have to do is I have several options here. For each option, there is separate functionality we can use in Dynamics. I mean, in the electronic reporting. But the main components which we are using here are the general, which we can use the user input parameters. Also, we can use the functions, calculated fields, which used for filtering the data which we are bringing from Dynamics or from the existing table from Dynamics. Also, we can group the data into logical groups or let's say aggregate the data. Again, we have something here from Dynamics 365 for operations. I'm able here to fetch the data from records in Dynamics itself. So before fetching the data from Dynamics, let's define the user parameters. So I will create a new user input parameter. So I will create a new parameter. I will name it date from. This is the name of the field which I'm creating in the mapping here. So the label of this one will be date from. Okay. So here something called operation data type named EDT or enum. EDT means extended data types. This the predefined data types in Dynamics itself. So I have several data types are defined here in Dynamics. Like if I need to use the description field, I will use the data type called description. If I need to use the workflow status of the BO or sales order or whatever, this I don't need to worry about what are the available values in the workflow status field. So I have to use directly the enum from here. Then system will directly match this enum data or EDT data with what we have, what's available in Dynamics itself. So it will be easy to present the same data and deal with the same configuration which we have already in the Dynamics itself. So in our case here, I'm trying to create the data from a date from. So I will just search for something called from date or date from, I think. Mm, okay, it's a date, I think. From date, yeah, we have here from date used in different places. So I will select the general one. So I don't need to rely on the, it can be used also, but I don't need to rely on the EDTs which are used in particular form like fixed assets or general ledger or whatever. So I'm using the generic ones which can be reused in different let's say report fields. So I will select this one and click on OK. Again, I will create a new one, date 2. It's not required to have a space in the date in the name itself, but it can be like that in the label, no issues. But in the name itself it will make an issue while keep the spaces between the text, between the words and the names. It will make an issue, or it will be an issue while using that field in the filtering, or sometimes in grouping. I think in grouping also will be have an issue. So here I will say this day 2, then click on OK. By the way, if I write something wrong, so to date maybe, it's showing here that the selected data type is not exist, so I corrected, then click on OK. Now I have the parameters here, date from and date to. So I will save this. Then I have something to be done again, but before moving forward I need to check something. I need to go back here and click on run. What will happen? System will show me the parameters which are available, which I already added in the previous section. So now I am just following step by step what I'm doing and how it will be presented in my screen. So I will again go back to the designer. Now I can see that two fields are available and coming to my screen. So what's next? The next, I need to have the mapping with the customer information. So what I will do is I will go to the 365 for operations. I will select the table records. So I will add root. Add root means I will add the table records to the this area, and if I am inside particular area, I can add sub components within the area itself. This we will come to that later. So for now I will create a new root. A new root here in my case, it will be a table which is the customer table. So I'm assuming this is the customer table. Customer table. And system is asking me from which table in dynamics you are going to map this table, which you already named customer table. I have all of the tables, views, data entities here from the dynamics itself. So I will just type the table name. It's a customer here. The label of this table again will be customer table. I can also map with particular fields, not all fields to be appear in the table itself. It's available here also. I can do that. Then I will click on OK. So now I created these two parameters as well as the customer table will read the data from dynamics. So let me map this information for now with the data model which I have created. So in the report parameters, I will bind this one, date from, and date to bind this one. So whatever print here will be binded to the data model which I have created in the report itself. So in the customer info, I will map this one, bind this one. So it's the customer info which I created in the designer. It means the customer table in dynamics itself. Then again inside this one, I will have the customer code. I will map the customer code or bind the customer code from the designer, from the report model which I have created with the customer code and the customer data entity in Dynamics itself. So it's here customer account number, customer account bind. By the way, I cannot bind the data type unless the data type is same. So while creating this field, I already created a string. So system allow me to have to bind this report. I mean this field, but it's let's say another data type like credit limit. It's something else. It's not the same data type like a string. System will not allow me to bind. So I have here the customer name. Um, I'm searching on the exact field, but I can use one option here, which is search. Using search will help me to find the particular field easily. But for me, it's taking uh, more time to find what I'm looking for. So that's why I'm searching myself. So here I binded the customer name as well. So I will save this one, then go back, then run the report. Just type anything here, let's say from 1st of December till end of the December, and click on OK. System by default will export an XML file. Output 5. This is the data which I already exported from the system. Here I have each customer exported here in the XML with the customer code and customer name. And in the bottom I have one block only, which is the report parameter, which is having the date from date to. I already added in the parameters while generating the reports. So again, I will go to the designer. I'm just checking what I have done step by step. I can finish everything, then run the report, then immediately I will see what are the results without following step by step like this. But I'm just practicing this because I don't need to do many works and many steps, many steps and many let's say actions in the while building the reports, and at the end the report will not work because I did mistake in here and there, maybe in one particular part or here and there, whatever. So maybe you can pass this and directly go ahead with the design for the whole report, then run the report at the end. But I'm preferring to do the step by step and checking the step by step which I'm doing right now, I mean while building the report. So what's next? I need to fetch all of the transactions for the customer, for each customer under this section here. So what I can do is I can create a new record, table records, and point to the customer trans table and fetch the data from there and presenting here. Also I can add like before we discussed about, we mentioned this add option. Add option means we'll add this table record, but not in this section. It will be added under the selected one. So if I added one more table here, if I click on add, it will system will show me the same screen, but the table which I'm going to add here will be added under the customer table, which means I'm just building the relationship between the main table and sub table. It will not be built directly, but it will allow me to categorize the data and grouping the data in a structured way. Okay, but in my case here, I don't need to create a new table. Why? Because in the customer table itself, I have something called relations. Relations for each table, I will have two relations like this. So we agree that we have the fields in the table itself here, including the functions. Like name here is a function, it's not a field name, because why it's a function, it's a function in the report itself, in the table itself, fetching the customer name from the global, let's say, names, or global repository of the names in Dynamics itself, because that repository will be having the customer, vendor, employees, or whatever. So we agree that we have fields and functions, as well as we will have something called relation two times here. Why two times? Because one have this sign. It means that one record will be, one record from the customer will be having, one record, the smallest one from the left side, will be the pointing to the selected table. The right side, which is the other side, will be pointing to the relation with the other table related to the particular table which I'm selecting right now. So in my case is the customer, so it's in the left side, which is one record, means the smallest part in this section, in the selected item here, the smallest part is the customer, and this customer will be having a relation with different tables outside, i mean other than the other data entities as well. So it's loading here. We can say that the relation with the other tables, we can identify this relation is one to many. One customer record will be linked with many tables in the Dynamics. Like for example, asset book, like bank deposits, for example, table, like contact person. So one customer will have different contact persons, one or more. Aging, one customer will have different aging periods, whatever. So this is the first relation. The other relation is several customers will be having a relationship with the one record in particular table or data entity in Dynamics itself. Okay. So I have here a customer trans. So in the relationships, one particular customer will have a several records from the customer trans or customer transaction. So I will select the customer trans here, or cust trans. Open this table. I will search here for the amount and map or bind this amount, and also I need to map or bind the customer trans table itself. The description, it's something here called text description text bind date or trans date. Okay, trans date and bind. So let's save that. So I bring the customer transaction from the relations directly. Okay, what I have to do is I have to save this, go back and run the report. It's very fast, faster than the reports in the Dynamics itself. So I will search for the output 6. So now I can see the data which I already mapped with the data model which I have created earlier. So I can see the customer code, customer name, and all of the data or transactions, transaction date, and the amount for each customer separately. But it's a huge data. What about, or what if I need to just filter the data based on one particular customer? What I have to do is I will go back to my designer and create this table, but filter table. How to do that? I will just go to calculated field, calculated field in the functions. There is something called calculated field, and add the calculated field in the root. So this is supposed to be the filtered customer info. I will use the same name and same label. Then edit the formula. What I need to say is this formula will have several functions I can use, like converting the data from one type to type, filtering the tables or filtering the data, changing the date format, bringing particular value like now date or today date, selecting first report as first record in the table. So in my case here, I need to select one. I need to just use one function called filter. In the filter here, it's asking if I need to check that here. There is something called filter. It's asking for the list and condition to filter this list. So in the list means I need to filter what I need to filter exactly. I need to filter the customer. So I will select this customer table and add data source. Then next I have to add the condition in which will filter this list. So what I will do is I will select the customer account here the customer account when the customer when the customer account or account number customer account number where customer account number equal, let's say, US dash 001. Then save this one, go back and click on OK. System created this filtered info for me. So what I have to do is I have to change the reference of this customer info. Instead of referring to the customer table, I will be referring to the filtered customer info. So I will bind this. The system is asking me to change the reference as well as all of the nested elements. So I will hit yes. All of the informations are coming from the filter table, so I have to change that one also. Okay, it's already same, no change here. So I will go back and run the report. Okay, so it's seventh output. I will open the seventh output here. It's not loaded yet. So now the data are filtered. It's not bringing all of the customers. It's showing me only one particular customer. So I have less data here. What if I need to filter this data? I mean selecting the customer from the user input itself. No need to just have it static in the filter. So what I will do is I will go to back. I will go back to the designer. Then I will add one more user input parameter. Add to root. So customer code. So the label will be customer code. This one will be let's say customer account and click on OK. So I created one more field here as a parameter. So in the filtered information, I will edit the filtered information, edit the formula, and instead of the static text here, so every time we'll be presenting the same customer. I don't need to do that. I just need to make it dynamic, so the customer dynamically can add the customer code and can see the data updated based on the selected value. So I will add this one while the customer is equal to the user input. So I will save this, then go back, click on OK, save this, then go back, then run the report. So here I can select the customer code. If you notice that I use the data entity, I mean the ETT, which is called cast account directly bring the information or data from dynamics. I don't need to worry about how the data built here. So directly system is showing the data in front of me. So I will select, for example, the 13, then click on OK, then keep, then go to the 8th output. Here I can see the data related to 13 only. Before we have seen the data related to 1. Before that we have seen the big list here of the data from all of the customers in the system itself. So what's next? Now I know that I'm able to filter the data, bring the data from the dynamics directly and map the data with the relation, I mean with the data entity or data model I have created in the report itself. So let me go back just to remind you what we are doing exactly. We are trying to build this report, and while building this report, we are following these steps, which is creating the data model. We already did the data model, and we have created the model mapping, and we link the model mapping with the data model. Then we are going to export the data model to the Excel format. So what I have to do is the data model data mapping here. I have to complete like what we did with the data model. I have to complete the data mapping. Then this is the completed version of the data mapping. So again, this one will be having a several versions. I can edit the versions as much as I can, and I can use each version separately. So what I have to do is I have to create a new configuration. In this configuration, this time I will create the format based on the data model which I created. So let's say export customer statement to Excel. I will use the same as description and select the format type. In our case, I will select the Excel. I have all of these formats can be exported from the electronic reporting. So I will select Excel. Then the version which I am using from the data model, I mean with the data map, the data model, the initial version. So I can here have several versions, select the particular version, so I can export different shapes from the data model which I already did before. So I will select this now, and the data model definition which we have created in the initial step, which is the root. So I can have also different versions from that root, or that base data which we are bringing the data from. I mean, which is the structure of the report, which having all of the fields we are aiming to be filled in the report. So create a configuration. Okay. So now the configuration created. Again, I will go to the designer, and again I will see a different shape of the designer. This designer which we are having right now, it belongs to the Excel sheet, and the columns and rows in the Excel sheet, and mapping with the data model which we already selected while creating this format. So from here we are telling that this is already built before, then map the dynamics, then again we are mapping this with the Excel sheet. It will be I mean means we are fetching the data into data model, and we are presenting the data model into our Excel sheet. How to build the Excel sheet here? So it's we need to import the Excel sheet from here, but before importing that, and it must be I mean it's a required step, or it's a mandatory step. The step is that we need to define the Excel sheet which is with its related fields or named fields. For example, I will create a new Excel sheet here, and this Excel sheet will be customer statement template demo, for example, er. Okay, so I will open this Excel sheet. So I'm trying to design this shape in the Excel sheet, and pointing all of these fields in the Excel sheet, then system will be able to identify where exactly the data has to be filled. Okay. open two times, so I will close one of them. Okay, this is the Excel sheet. It's totally empty. So what I have to do is I will just shape it like this, and type here customer statement report. Make it in the middle and have the let's say background like this. Mm, Background like this, and let's say customer code. Okay, customer name. Okay, then uh, let's say date from and date to. Then I will have here like um, okay, like I will have like borders here. Let's say this one as well, and let's say a number, and let's say a date. Um, the description, I think, amount and description, amount and description. So we don't need this. Okay. So I'm assuming that I will have the customer code here. I just highlight it like this, and customer name here, date from here, and date to here, and number will be here, date will be here, amount will be here, and description will be here. So what I have to do is I have to go to the customer code like this, and click on formulas, name manager, then create a new name. What I'm doing actually, I'm trying to give a name to the selected cell in the Excel sheet. So it's named here customer underscore code. So if you look at here, this is named C4, and this is named customer code. I will do the same with all fields which I'm aiming to deal with and presenting the data from Dynamics. So here I will name this one as well, and it will be customer name new, and here I will create a new date from. Okay, here I will create a new, it's called date to, and here the date, new date, let's say, let's name it trans date, and here is the amount, new amount, and here name it a description. Okay, so I named every field. I named each field of this. Then after that I have to select the rows which we are going to repeat for each different transaction, for each single customer. So I will give it name also, new, and name it for example list. Then click on OK. So I named amount, customer code, name, date from, date to, description, list, and transaction date. Then I will save this uh, Excel template. Then I will go to again to the electronic reporting Then I will click on import from Excel. So here I will add the template. Then I will open this Excel sheet. Then create Excel sheet, format elements, so I don't need to worry about what is there designed in the Excel sheet. System automatically will bring all of the designs fields or design fields to this designer. Then apply the data types for the cells. Then click on OK. What I have seen here, the Excel sheet with the sheet 1 created with this named cells and fields, which I have already did using the name manager in the Excel itself. Then what I have to do now, I have to map each single field and each single list from here with the data model which I have. So I will map this one, the sheet itself with this I mean the customer, the sheet with the customer list. Okay, customer code. So customer code, customer name in the list here with this list. The amount will be with the amount. Description will be with the description. Transaction date will be with the transaction date. And parameters will be from date will be binded with the from date, to date will be binded with the to date. Then save this one and run to see what I have done. Then click on OK. I should see Excel sheet exported here. Wow, fantastic. The report here is showing the report ID, the customer code, customer name, date from date to, and the amount for each single transaction and the date of the each transaction. But as you see that the dates, for example, are not coming in a good shape here. So this is the date value, but it's not like month, year, day, for example. How to change that? I will go to the Excel. I will go to the format here and I will create the transformation. Transformation means we'll convert the value into a particular format which I need to see. So I will type here, for example, date format. Mm, okay. The type will be the date and edit the formula. So what I need to say is that I need to say the date format, the date format. So I will get this value and convert it to the format like day, day, month, month, and year, like that. So what I have to do is I have to go back here to mapping and select the from date. Uh, mm, 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 no, I have to go to here format and select from date and transform that to date format, and to date transform to date format. Also the transaction date will be transformed to or into the date format, then save and run again. Let's see how it will be shaped. Open the fourth one. Wow, now I can see the dates formatted into a good format like day, month, and year. Up to this level, I created the report with its model and map this model and map the mapped model to the fields in Excel sheet, and now I'm able to export the map data from Dynamics and export it by electronic reporting to the Excel sheet, and exporting the Excel sheet. Exporting the Excel sheet with all of the data outside of the Dynamics and download it. So what I have to do is um, I just need to uh, group the data. If we look at the data here, for example, we have in last three transactions are same day and same month but different years. So I'm looking for like this, for example. It's same day. I need to group this data. No need to repeat such kind of transactions. I just need to group all of the data based on the date, for example. So if the date repeated here, system will aggregate the values into one particular value and will be showing only one record. How to do that? It's a kind of grouping the data into a logical groups or logical aggregation shape. So I will close this and go back to the mapping so I will not group that in the Excel sheet. I just need to group that not in the data model as well. It will be grouped in the mapping itself. While mapping the data, you don't need to bring all of the data in front of me as an end user. You just need to group the data. The electronic reporting, we should group the data and show the group data in front of me. So I will go to the designer and open the blades the blades which I'm using to configure the data sources with my uh, report scheme. So what I need to do is, from the filtered customer information, I will get the grouped customer transactions. Okay, so what I will do under this one, under the customer information, I will go to the group group by. Then I will not click on add route. I will add directly to be under this one. Then it will be in the right shape while exporting the data. So it will be one customer, and under the customer itself will have different customer transactions grouped by the transaction date. So I will add. It will be under this one directly. So I will name it group by trans date, just name, and click on edit group by. Here system will ask me about the three things. First of the things, First thing that we need to go to the relation and select the customer trans or cust trans table, in which I need to rely on the grouping. In which table I'm trying to group the data. So here I will search for the cust trans. Again to the next search. Here the customer trans linked with the customer table based on the account number. So I will first thing here is system is asking what to group. Is asking me about three things. The first thing, what to group. What are the data we need to group actually? What is the exact table I need to group the data from. So it will be from the customer trans. Here is added to where to group. Then inside this one, what I will do is I will select what you need to group, what kind of aggregation you need to group. What kind of aggregation you need to do. So here I will aggregate the amounts. I will summarize the amounts. I will do the summation for the amounts. So I will select the amount and add field to group. Sorry, it's in the aggregation field. Aggregation, so I will aggregate the amount. It's not average. I will sum, then delete this one, no need. Okay. The third thing here, based on what I will summarize the amounts based on the transaction date. Okay, I will search for the trans. Up, search up. It's not here. Okay, search next. Okay, here is the date. So I will add this field to group by the date. But again, we need to select the customer cust account. I think it's named like that. Up. Okay, now. Okay, I think account number. Where is the customer? Here. Just need to search from this position. So I will group by this field as well. So I grouped by the transaction account number and transaction date. What I will do, I will summarize the transaction amount. I will save this, then go back, click on OK. So what I have here, I have the filtered data based on the customer code, and inside this one I will have the grouped transaction. So here no change, but here I will select the customer transactions from this source, which is the group data. Under this one I have three things: aggregated fields, which in our case amount, and the grouped fields, which is in our case the group customer account and transaction date. So I will go to here and select the amount from the aggregated, and in transaction date I will select the trans date. In the description, actually if we aggregate two different transactions, it might have different description. For example, if we have transaction in day 1 with the description text 1, and the transaction in day 1 again with the description text 2, if I summarize these two transactions, I cannot rely on the description because I have two different descriptions, because I have text 1 and text 2. In this case, I will not select any description, because if I selected the description as part of my grouping, that will segregate the transactions as well. So instead of getting one line of the transactions, I mean of the group of the transactions based on the date, I will get two line of transactions, which is not my requirement at this moment. So what I will do in this description, I will just edit this one. I can keep it empty, no problem, but I can do like this. It's just group data. So it's return this text here just for testing purpose. Then what I will do is I will save this, go back, and just to simulate the grouping. Let me export that XML to just see the data, how it's aggregated actually. So here it's I think it's 53 records. So here I should not see the data repeated with the same date itself. It should not be there. So before I was able to see the date repeated, but in my case here, after the grouping the data, I will not see the date repeated. And the text, I mean the description for the transaction which I already wrote, it's coming like just a group data, because as I mentioned that we cannot rely on the particular transaction text, because this record might be one transaction, might be more transactions accumulated in one record here. So let's go back to the our export format, but before that let me complete this version group by date, or trans date for example. So I created a new version now from the data mapping. We will go to the Excel here. I don't think that I need to repaste this, because it's taking already the latest version. So what I need to do is I need to run this. I cannot run from here because this is not yet completed, or it's still in the draft. So I need to export from the designer itself for time being. So nothing to be changed here, but only the data will be accumulated or aggregated. So I will run from here directly. Same thing, same. Let me select another customer, which is the customer with the 53 records. Then click on OK. A new file generated here, which is number 6. So okay, now it's not accumulated, not aggregated. Okay, as I can see here, there is no description written. And also, for example, let's check 2 records. repeat it here. For example, I should see some records here in 17. Oh, it's already accumulated. Yeah, it's already summarized. But why I'm not able to see? Let me just double check if there is a repeated data here. Uh, okay, I was looking to this number, but it's not 63 actually. It's 54 records, so it's a accumulated ones. But let me double check whether we have a repeated data here or not. We don't have any repeated data, so this data already accumulated. Like for example, in 22 of May 2017, there were three different transactions are there. So if we need to check the customer transaction here, this particular customer, so I will go to accounts receivable, all customers. This customer transactions and filter by this date. Why I said that? Because I know there is some data grouped here. Let me filter by 22 of May. 2017 to the same date. Okay. If I can see here, there are three transactions: 53 625 by credit and 53 625 by debit. So the total or net amount of these two will be 0. Then the third transaction is 20. So the accumulated amount for the 3 days, for the three transactions in the same day, which is 22 of May 2017, will be only the 21. I mean the line which has the 20 amount. So as I can see here, only 20 I'm seeing. So that means the other two transactions accumulated and become 0 plus the 20. Then I can see only the 20. So now I can able to group the data based on my uh, requirement. The last thing that um, I need to go to the report configuration again, customer statement, and open the designer for the data mapping. What I need to do is filter by the dates or transaction date. So let me check what I filtered here. I filtered the customer number only based on the parameter, which is the customer code. Let's continue filtering the data based on the date from and date to that are entered by the user while generating the report. So I will do one thing here. I will add one more table record in the root, which is customer transactions that will be more easy, which is just trans. That will be more easy for us to maintain rather than dealing with the customer trans table which is in the relation with the customer table. The relation already there with this table, but what I did actually, I just separated the table from the relations to be added separately in the root itself. So I can easily deal with the data and filtering the data, grouping the data directly with that particular branch from the relations or particular table from the bulk of the, uh, from the tables which are related to the customer table. So what I will do is I will refer the filter. Here I will add the calculated field, then add customer trans filter. Okay, then I will filter. I will add one filter here. So what I need to do is I will filter the customer transaction, then add, sorry, and will allow me to add more conditions rather than dealing with one condition only. So I will select when the account number account number so I will add the account number when the account number equal to the customer account number, this one. So when the customer transaction account number equal to the filter based on the customer ID, filter table based on the customer ID equal to the account number, then one more condition is in the customer transaction when trans date, which is date mm, date trans date. I need to double check or to make sure that the transaction date from the customer transaction when the customer trans date is bigger than or equal the date from parameter here, and one more condition when the customer date two parameter less than or smaller than the two date. So I'm just selecting all of the transactions in the customer trans table based on the selecting account number, and the date transaction date should be after the date from which I added to while generating the report, added to but the parameter, and the transaction date should be less than the to date which I added to the parameter while generating the report. So after that, the group which I created before, I will just change it. Instead of relying on the customer trans and the relations, I will rely on the customer trans, not the customer trans which I created here outside, because there is no filter, nothing on this one. This is just a reference to the table. I will rely on the customer transactions table, which under the customer information here. So I aim to I'm looking for grouping the data within this table. So under the filtered customer, filter trans. So within this one, I will just remove this, which was transaction date, and here, which was account number. And this is the amount. I will just remove it from the summary here. Then from the filter transaction, I will group by, I will summarize this amount, aggregation, change this to be sum, and I will search for the account number, account number, customer account will be group by, and the transaction date will be the other group by. So I have the group by transaction date in the customer trans filter table, as well as the account number, and summarized by the amount in the same table. So I will just save it, click on OK. Here I have some errors because of some wrong references here. So I just combined what was the what was wrong, the references which are wrong, and system is pointing these references should be corrected. So let's double check here. This is the filtered customer information, and let's check the group by. Okay, fine. Then what I have to do is I have to change the customer transaction grouping here to be binded with the new one after the changes. This description will not be changed. The amount will be the aggregated one here, and the transaction date will be the grouped one. Then save. We can also double check by validating the things are okay. So I need to save this, then go back and run this report for 2015, January 2015. Let's check how many records are there. Okay, it's filtered now. Let me expand the period now for just checking whether I'm filtering the correct data or not. Save 44, refresh. Now I'm getting more data. So I will go back to the designer and go back to my root data mapping. Then I will go back to my data mapping. Then complete this version. Filter by date. Add filter by, let's say, transaction date. Then click on OK. Then go to the Excel sheet and Excel sheet format and run this one. 1 15 12 31 15. Then OK. It's number 7. Let's check the downloaded one here, number 7. Now I got the file based on the selected period, so 22 records. Now we are able to see the output of the electronic reporting. Hopefully that you enjoyed this session, and hopefully this is a good starting point for everyone can use the electronic reporting as a powerful tool in which can help us to generate reports based on our expected outputs. And by the way, we have so many options and so many features we can use in the electronic reporting, like manipulating the data. Also, we have options to import the data again back to the dynamics from the Excel sheet or from the external file. Also, we can export the data into PDF, Word, and so many formats as well. So we can explore more in that module. We can do more with that module, and this is powerful tool actually we can use to help us to get more data, more and efficient data in a right manner and a reasonable, let's say, a reasonable time frame. Thank you. See you in another sessions.